He was just a teenager, enjoying a simple day at the mall. No crime, no wrongdoing. Just a boy looking for a new pair of sneakers. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. Security closed in, whispers turned into accusations, and before he could even understand what was happening, he was in handcuffs, treated like a criminal. What none of them realized, however, was who this boy really was. And the truth would shake the entire department. How could a simple shopping trip turn into a nightmare of injustice? Darius was like any other 17-year-old. He loved basketball, laughed too loudly with his friends, and dreamed of one day wearing a badge like his father. Growing up, he was taught to respect the law, to believe that justice was meant to protect him. On this Saturday afternoon, all he wanted was something simple, a new pair of sneakers he'd been saving up for. He walked through the mall with quiet excitement, passing by bright store windows, his mind filled with nothing more than which pair he'd choose. To everyone else, he was just another teenager enjoying his weekend. But to a few suspicious eyes, he was something else entirely. Glances lingered too long, whispers carried across the floor, and subtle tension hung in the air that he didn't notice. For Darius, this was supposed to be just another ordinary day. Yet in the crowd, unseen and unspoken, a decision was already being made, one that would turn his joy into humiliation. What he didn't know was that in minutes, everything he believed about fairness, safety, and justice would be put to the ultimate test. Darius strolled past the glass display, his eyes fixed on a pair of sneakers he had been saving for. The world felt normal, safe even. But behind him, security guards exchanged glances. Their eyes weren't on the shoes, the sale, or the busy shoppers. They were locked on him. One guard whispered to another, and in seconds Darius became the center of suspicion. He didn't notice at first. He was too focused, too hopeful, too caught up in the excitement of finally buying something with his own hard-earned money. But then he felt it. The stares, the unease, the weight of invisible eyes pressing down on him. As he picked up a box, his hands steady, a voice sliced through the noise of the mall. "Hey, put that down!" Confused, Darius looked up. A guard was already closing the distance, his expression sharp, accusing. Shoppers slowed, some whispering, others recording. Darius froze, the box still in his hands. His heart skipped. He hadn't done anything wrong. Another guard stepped in, his tone harsher. "Empty your pockets." Darius blinked, stunned. I didn't take anything." His voice was quiet, almost swallowed by the crowd. But his words didn't matter. To them, his skin had already told the story they chose to believe. Without hesitation, they grabbed his arms. The sneakers fell to the floor, landing with a thud that seemed to echo louder than the chaos erupting around him. Strangers shook their heads. Some looked away. Others smirked, entertained by the spectacle of a teenager being dragged through the mall in handcuffs. Darius's chest tightened. Shame burned his cheeks, but beneath it pulsed something stronger, fear. The fear that no matter what he said, no matter what he did, he had already been judged guilty. His mind raced to his father's words about standing tall, about knowing his worth. But here, in front of dozens of watching eyes, his worth felt erased. He wasn't Darius, the basketball player. He wasn't the kid saving for sneakers. He wasn't even seen as a son. He was just another suspect. The guards didn't pause, didn't question. They paraded him through the mall as though justice had already been served. Each step echoed with humiliation. Each laugh from the crowd deepened the wound. Darius wanted to shout, to demand they call his father, to scream the truth, but he couldn't. His voice felt trapped, buried under years of warnings about what could happen if he resisted. And just as they pushed him toward the exit, the sound of a ringtone pierced the air. One of the guards pulled out a phone, his face paling at the name on the screen. The moment hung heavy, suspense thickening with every passing second, because the man they had just arrested, the boy they had paraded in handcuffs, was no ordinary teenager. And the truth of who his father was about to shatter everything. The cold metal of the handcuffs dug deeper into Darius's wrists as the guards shoved him toward the security office. His chest heaved, his heart slamming against his ribs. Every step felt heavier, every second stretched longer. He had never felt so small, so powerless, so completely stripped of who he was. "Sit down!" one of them barked, pushing him into a chair as if he were already a criminal. His voice cracked as he tried once more. "Please, I didn't steal anything." But the words fell flat, drowned out by the clicking of a pen filling out a report, his guilt written down before the truth was even spoken. The crowd outside pressed closer to the glass. Some shook their heads, others lifted their phones higher, capturing every humiliating second. To them, it was a spectacle. To Darius, it was the unraveling of everything he thought was safe. Then the office door burst open. Heavy footsteps. A presence that silenced the room instantly. It was his father. The man in uniform. The man these guards had unknowingly disrespected in the worst way possible. His father's eyes scanned the scene, landing on his son in cuffs. The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The guards' smug expressions drained, their confidence collapsing into panic. They had crossed a line they could never erase. In that single moment, roles reversed. The enforcers of justice were now exposed for their prejudice, their actions laid bare before the very man they thought they served. And as Darius lifted his eyes, fighting back tears, the question hung in the air. Would the truth set him free, or was the damage already done? The cuffs came off, but the damage remained. Darius's father didn't need to raise his voice. The silence of his authority was enough to send the guards stumbling over apologies. They tried to explain, to excuse their actions, but every word only made the truth clearer. They hadn't seen a teenager shopping. They had only seen the color of his skin. Darius stood there, wrists marked, eyes burning. The sneakers he had dreamed of no longer mattered. What mattered was the lesson carved into his heart. No amount of innocence could shield him from prejudice. The mall, once a place of joy, had become a stage where his dignity was stolen in plain sight. For his father, the humiliation was twofold. As a police captain, he had sworn to uphold justice. As a father, he had promised to protect his son. Yet in that moment, both promises had been broken, not by strangers on the street, but by the very system he served. They walked out together, but nothing felt the same. The crowd dispersed, the whispers faded, but the memory would not. Darius knew he would carry it forever, not just as a wound, but as a reminder of the world he lived in. And the truth is, this isn't just Darius's story. It's the story of countless young black men and women who find themselves judged, not by their actions, but by their appearance. Stories that rarely make the news, yet leave scars that last a lifetime. So the question remains, how many more sons and daughters must endure this before the system truly changes? How many more innocent lives must be scarred before justice means the same for everyone? Because until that day comes, no walk through the mall, no trip home, no ordinary moment will ever feel truly safe.